The member for Hughes.
Thank you, Speaker. This week we've seen the Productivity Commission's report expressing concern about competition in our banking sector. And what better example of lack of competition in our banking sector than what we've seen from our four big banks, with their anti-coal rhetoric, their appeasement of extreme left-wing anti-coal zealots, and the statements that they have made supporting the war on coal. I could pick any of the four big banks, but in the time available, I'd like to particularly look at what the National Bank has done in this area on their war in coal. Last year, Deputy Speaker, the National Bank admitted to sending out a press release saying that they were not going to loan any money to the Carmichael coal mine. That's fine. But it turns out, Deputy Speaker, they were never actually even asked for a loan. So they had sent out a press release saying we're not going to loan money to a project they hadn't been asked for, they had no idea of the parameters of, Deputy Speaker, simply to fill their anti-coal rhetoric to appease extreme Greens. Secondly, Deputy Speaker, we had a press release by the National Bank just before Christmas which said the NAB has an important role to play in the orderly transition to a low-carbon economy. This statement is nothing other than politically correct, absolute nonsense. This so-called transition to the low-carbon economy. If we look at the numbers from the International Energy Agency, currently wind and solar make up 0.8% of the world's energy supply. And their predictions, with all the subsidies and all the billions and billions of dollars of subsidies, by 2040, the number for wind and solar will get to 3.6% of the world's energy supplies. In 2040, Deputy Speaker, all the predictions are for more coal, more oil, more gas. And recently, the US Energy Information Administration did their projections out to 2050. At the moment, the US economy is 85.2% driven by fossil fuels. The predictions, Deputy Speaker, throwing in again all the subsidies and all the wonderful new renewable sources that will come on board, have it at 79.2% by 2050. Deputy Speaker, this idea that there is some transition to a low-carbon economy is simply a myth. Secondly, the NAB goes on here in their press release, which says it is critical to ensure Australians can have access to secure, reliable and affordable energy. Continue to have access to affordable energy? Deputy Speaker, we have the state of South Australia, which has the highest electricity prices in the world. We've seen today, Deputy Speaker, the Daily Telegraph run an article about AGL where they've compared the price of what New South Wales consumers pay for electricity, close to 40 cents a kilowatt hour, but yet in the state of Virginia, where the CEO of AGL comes from, they enjoy 15 cents a kilowatt hour, less than half the price. And is it any wonder why? Because when we go to look at the figures from Virginia, which is their electricity supplied through the PJM market, yesterday at 3:30 p.m, almost this time, Deputy Speaker, just 1% of the supply of electricity going to Virginia was from renewables. 99% was coming from coal, gas or nuclear. 99% and 1% from renewables. And that's why, Deputy Speaker, the prices in the US were so much lower. So I think the best thing for our big banks, Deputy Speaker, rather than run their anti-coal rhetoric, and we look at some of the numbers, how misguided that was. Last year, thermal coal prices were 33% up for the year. Exports to Japan from Australia grew 50%, and China's coal consumption was up 5.2%. We've got the International Energy Agency forecasting that world demand for coal will increase by another 200 million tonnes to the year 2022, and yet we have our big banks running an anti-coal rhetoric, one of the most important exports and the most important competitive advantages that this nation has. Deputy Speaker, it is not the job of the big banks to try and appease extreme left-wing green groups. This harms the economy. The best thing the banks can do for our economy is to ensure that Australian businesses can take advantage of what is the true competitive and comparative advantages that this nation enjoys, and that used to be low-cost energy. It is no longer because of the war on coal. This war on coal must end.
The member's time has concluded.